we start. We start with a summary, Jair, and that's where you come into the picture. A couple of minutes of Parashat Yitro, so everyone knows where.
Of course, Parashat Yitro is one of the most important parashot in the Torah. Yitro is, as you all know, Moshe's God, Moshe's how to say, father-in-law, and he comes with a kid. The beginning of the parasha talks a bit about the structure of the Jewish people. Kohn and sees that Moshe is alone, standing, and all the people come only to him, and then he gives a better structure to how we should lead the people. So this is like the first part, creating a system of leadership among the Israelites, and then afterward we have the text that there's what we call Ma'amad Har Sinai or Brit Sinai, the covenant of Mount Sinai. A very interesting dialogue between Moshe, God, and Israelites about what is it they commit themselves to, and every side of the agreement. And then comes the very famous text that is called the Ten Commandments, or the Tibul, which is a very bad way to call these 10, because the word in Hebrew is Aseret HaDvarim in the Torah, or Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 sayings, which is very different, because anyone who will read the Aseret HaDibrot will find out that you can't find 10 commandments. Like, you can talk in very different ways of what exactly are the 10, but they can definitely not find 10 commandments. You can either find much more or less, but 10 is basically impossible to find commandments. But if you do it as 10 sayings, that's a different thing. The thing is that we are obligated to 10 because somewhere else in the Torah, they talk about Aseret HaDvarim that are written there. So we have to. This is a given that it is 10. But that comes the great event on Sinai, where the Israelites get the Torah, get these Aseret HaDibrot. God shows himself to the people with fire and you have like a earthquake. Like the whole mountain is like it's a crazy event. Everything shakes. The whole this whole event, and then the dialogue also at the end after that, and the last and then maybe the first mitzvot that starts already at the end of the parasha, forward to the next parasha, which is filled with lots of rules, just like we rabbis love. So this is like the outline of Parashat Torah. Was it detailed enough, Rav Michael, or do you want me to come to more specifications? No, now you're muted.
Thank you. Any comments or any questions or comments about Parashat Yitro before we see our first Midrash? Okay. So our first Midrash is dealing with a question really about Yitro and Yitro's conversion. Now, there's a play on words in the Midrash right before what we see here, and I'll just highlight it for you so everyone can read. There's a play on words, which I didn't add, but there's an entry into the question of Yitro's conversion based on a Hebrew word in the parasha, and then it goes on to say that Yitro said, who delivered you from the Egyptians and from Paro, and who delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians? Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods. So this is really the explanation Yitro gives for his supposed conversion, which makes sense because Yitro did go along with the Jewish people, and so it does. I'm not questioning whether he's. It might have sounded like I was questioning whether he did some sort of conversion, but he did join the Jewish people. Do you want to say anything more about his conversion, Yair?
I would say conversion, it's a question. There's actually a big debate about it when Yitro leaves. It says that Yitro wants to leave, and there's a debate between Moses and him. If no, they try to insist for him to stay, and it's actually not clear how did it finish. So we have here an opening to the different approaches. One is that Yitro converted, and the other one, like he became part of the people, Yitro. And it's very important to say that Yitro is not only Moshe's no,
Father-in-law.
Moshe's father-in-law. Yitro was a priest of Midian. So we don't only talk about someone who technically was a non-Jew who was father-in-law to Moshe because his daughter married Moshe. We talk about someone who has a very important position as a head priest of Midian, and then the question, did he join us or not, has a very important effect on how do we see this relationship. Did Yitro get convinced, as you bring here from the quotation that it's a quote from the Parsha here, that when he comes, he talks about how amazing your God is that did all this to you. Basically, this is the word you say.
Yeah.
And then the question, does it mean, saying how great is your God, does it mean that he also accept that God as his God? That's not necessarily the same thing. Today it sounds as if it's, of course, if you believe this is the true God who did whatever he did, then it looks like then you will join that people. But it's not as clear in the time of the Torah that it means. And so we can see, is it Yitro showing his appreciation of the people, or is it Yitro who actually joined the people? It's two very different directions that the discussion in when he wants to leave, that discussion takes the route, and and it can be read both ways. Either he stays or not. We actually don't know, which is a very interesting. If it's very important for us to know that he stays, why doesn't the Torah tell us he stayed? And if it's important to say that he left, why the Torah doesn't say that he left? What does the Torah want us with this person? It's actually very unclear. This Yitro he comes out of the blue when Moshe goes to him, comes here with a few remarks, and then disappear to the rest of the Torah until he wants to leave. That this will be the next time we'll hear about him.
Yeah. But tell me about you were talking about the gods. You're saying that according to Yitro there are lots of gods. It's just that this one, he now realized that this one is greater than all the other gods.
Yes.
Right. Which is a bit strange. So right. So even though he joined the Jewish people, it seems like he still holds on to this idea that all these other things are also gods. It's just that now I know which one is the greatest.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are rabbis. We have to be very careful with what we say. There's a huge discussion among historians who read the Bible, who try to claim that the Judaism in the beginning wasn't that monotheistic. I disagree with their reading, but there are approaches saying that the original, in the academical world, in the universities, will say, yes, the whole thing of the God of Israel is only about a fight about who is the greatest God, not necessarily who is the only God, and it's a very big difference. I can also add that I had a huge debate. I'm in the middle of translating the Torah, the whole Tanakh, to Danish, and one of the most difficult words that we had to translate, that we fought about it, was the word Ha-Elohim, the God, because in Hebrew it says many times Ha-Elohim. and in Danish, when you say God with a bestemd form, when it's like a particular the God,
Definite article, yeah.
it's as if there are others.
Okay,
So it
yeah.
sounds so wrong to Danish ears to say that, and that's why we only very few places I insisted on on having that sentence, but we say it when we shout in Yom
What's
Kippur,
the
the end of Yom
alternative?
Kippur.
Tell us the different sides of the debate.
So Sam, my opinion is always we have to translate everything as it is. So if it
Right.
says Ha Elohim, the God, then I have to write the God. But the problem is that it sounds in
I understand the problem. What's the alternative? What do other people want?
just God. And that is
Ah,
like
okay, I
all
see.
translation. All translation
I
just
see.
leave it as God most of the
I
places.
see.
We I one of the only places that I left the God is, for example, you have when the last sentence we say in Yom Kippur. Remember the
Yeah.
sentence we say 7 times. Hashem hu Elohim.
Right.
Then like Hashem is the God. Saying
Yeah.
Hashem is God is not like doesn't make sense because the whole
Uh-huh.
idea is to underline that He is
Right.
the God. Um,
Right.
so there we left it. But most of the places I followed all other translations and
Uh-huh.
decided not to
Okay.
have the God, even though it made like I really felt it's wrong.
Yeah.
But why do I mention it? To say that there might be a direction that in the beginning of the Torah having some kind of a view of having other gods and just underlining that our God is the one, the best one.
Right.
Uh,
Right. No, I see what you're saying. There's another debate, though, in the world of philosophy about the word monotheism. So very often we see monotheism as a description of the amount of gods one believes in. So monotheism is usually defined as a belief system that only believes in one god and not many gods, right? While lots of Jewish philosophers, including Rambam, for example, doesn't think that's what monotheism means at all. Monotheism, when we say that we believe in one God, what we actually say is that we believe in a God that is unique, not just one God. So that could also be a way to interpret what Yitro is saying, and just like and I very much see the logic in this because as a football fan, a lot of us have a god in football, which is Maradona, of course. He is well, Maradona has the nickname God.
no,
So
that belongs only to Michael Jordan. I'm sorry.
well, if you take Michael Jordan, so according to lots of people, if you only believed in Michael Jordan, you would be a monotheist.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make any sense. So that's where Jewish philosophy comes in and says, no, that's not really what monotheism means. You wouldn't be a monotheist just because you believe in only Michael Jordan. It would have to monotheism really means, and God really means someone who is unique, not just someone who is one. Okay, so we're
What are
moving
you trying
along.
to say here, Rav Michael? I want to understand. Are you trying to, in this, you're sending a bomb here. So are you trying to tell all the people here that you talk about Judaism that believes in more gods?
No. First of all, the first thing I tried to say was that Michael Jordan is not God. The other thing I
Okay.
wanted to say was that the Jewish belief in God is that we believe in a God which is unique, not just one God, but a God that is not like anything else. That's what I think believing in one God means. And I think that's what Yitro is understanding. He's not understanding that someone is more powerful. He is seeing that there is something which is unique to the God that the Jews believe in.
To the concept of God, not God the person, like the not God himself, but the concept of the Jewish belief of God. This is what you mean?
No, I mean the God that Judaism believes exists. is unique.
And you think that in the word of Ito, you can say that that the others are not, that others do not exist, or that the belief of God is the way we the way we see God is the unique.
Yeah. Well, yeah, what we believe about God, meaning, so when pagans, for example, talk about God, very often it is a way to understand. They're picturing the world and or they're picturing the heavens with different types of forces that are fighting each other and that are causing natural disasters and things like this. Now, the Jewish God is a very different understanding of how the world works and how a God would work. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think we have a question here.
Yes, Tatiana.
It's actually not Tatiana. I've been eavesdropping.
Hey, Daniel.
How's it going?
Good.
But yeah, I was very fascinated by the conversation here. And I was just wondering, I mean, I get what you're saying with that God would be unique, etc. But I've always interpreted it that we're not only saying that God is unique in one, he's saying that he is the only one worthy of worship at all. So I feel like what you're saying is that there could be something that's not God, that's a whole different thing, but that could itself be worthy of worship as well in a different way than you worship God. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I would say that one of the things that makes the Jewish God worthy of worship is that he is different than all the others. For example, as the creator of the world. So that lots of these other gods that Yitro might have been referring to, they wouldn't have been the creator of the world, for example,
But
right?
would that other, okay, so that other God might not have created the world, but might that other God interfere in daily life? Might he control whether it's raining tomorrow or not? And so if you want rain, maybe you would turn to him. Like, it sounds a little bit almost like the Christian value system where you have these kind of demigods in the saints and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
that was very much the paganism of the old times that I think Judaism was trying to combat. Yeah.
It's an interesting one of the when you bring this up as Yitzhak's quest to find God. It reminds me actually something that is already written in the beginning of Sefer Shmot, where we read about Moshe when he leads Yitro's fall. How do you say it? He's wow, my English today. Ro'eh et hatzon. He's help me here. Someone help me.
What's the
Ro'eh
Danish?
hatzon. Sheep. Yeah, he's herding the sheep and he's
Yeah.
taking them in the desert. And it says that he comes to Har Elohim Choreva. He goes to God's mountain in Chorev. And there's actually a very big question there. If Moshe goes to that mountain, by the way, the same mountain where they will get the Torah now. So they experience what they are going to experience now in Parashat Torah that we read tomorrow, that we read on Shabbat. But there's a question: why did he go there? Does it say that he went to the mountain that he found later out that this is God's mountain, Har Elohim, or did he go because it was Har Elohim? Like you can read it both ways. Did he go there because it was a known place to be God's mountain, or did he go there and he found out when he saw God, when he met God in the sneh, then he found out that this is Har Elohim, but he didn't know that in advance. And why is that interesting? Because if you read it as if he went specifically to the mountain that is the mountain of God, then maybe he was inspired by what he saw in the house of Yitro. Moshe didn't grow up with any philosophy about God, right? How do I know it? Because he asked God different questions when he meets God. What's your name? What should I tell them? He needs different evidence. So you can see that Moshe doesn't really, he doesn't have a clear view about what God is and who he is and what the relationship we have to God. He's not sure. So when he goes to Har Elohim, maybe is actually inspired by Itro's seeking after God.
Yeah.
Maybe he does the same thing, trying to go to the mountain, trying to find God, just like Itro tries to find God and continue, even though he's a priest.
Right.
Is in this quest, which I think should be inspiring to us. You can be a priest of your religion, your people, and still be on the quest to the essence.
Right.
The rabbi.
Right.
Doesn't mean
Interesting.
that you know the right answer. You should be like in this quest. Maybe we should be inspired by Itro and continually seek and try to get to the truth and not think that we have it. We don't. But don't tell anyone.
Yeah, fair. So we have one comment here from Tikva, says that the Midrash say that Yitro understand that Hashem was and is a Elohim of wonders and the only one. Well, and the only one. Yeah, that's what we're wondering about. That's exactly the issue here because it seems
the
like,
Midrash.
yeah, because
It's the
it seems
Torah
like
itself.
exactly. So it seems like Yitro is talking about more than just one, and that's the confusion. Good. We have to continue in the Midrash.
Yeah.
So the Yitro says, how does Yitro know? So Yitro said, I have not neglected to worship any idol in this world, but I have found no God like the God of Israel. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all the gods. So here's the sort of Yitro in the Midrash. Yitro is explaining how could he know that the Jewish God is the greatest God. And the translation here says that I found no God like the God of Israel, which I would like to use as an argument for Rambam's understanding of monotheism, which is what I said, is that it's about being different or unique, as he calls it. And even though I agree with you, Jair, that it's not obvious in the text, true. But here he says, here Yitro comes with some sort of understanding or some sort of explanation for how he knows that the Jewish one is the greatest.
But you can also add, Rav Michael, here that there is you can see an evolution of the religious argument.
Okay.
Because in the Torah, Yitro says something very simple. When we have the question mark, how does Yitro know? Yitro answered how he knows.
Yes, he knows. Yeah.
He answered. I saw all the great things you did.
He tried.
You did against Pharaoh.
Yeah, he's tried out all of them.
No. Before he said about the try, he said, "I see what God did to you."
Right.
This is the original answer. The original answer in the Torah, which the Midrash brings, is I can see what he did. He saved you and what he did to Pharaoh and all the amazing things I heard. Your God is the one and only. I have to admit, because I saw he did great things to you.
Right.
And then the evolution of Jewish Jewish philosophy, or I don't like to use the word philosophy, but the Jewish way of thinking comes to this Midrash and says, no, it's not about how strong God is. Because this is the regular things that you have among different worshippers of idols. The usual story in idol worshipping was a fight between whose God is stronger, right? You have yours, I have mine, and let's fight, and we'll see. If I win, then it means my God is stronger than your God, and that's why also you have the relations between Vikings and different group. Whoever held the right God that supported him, or in ancient time, then that God was stronger. That is the argument, the original argument that he comes with the classical idol worshipping, saying, "Oh, your God is so amazing because of what he did. So no doubt he's the greatest." And the Midrash here comes and say, "No. you read it completely wrong. Yitro had a journey of studying, of understanding, of trying any idol in the world. He went alone. He went from one temple to the other. He worshipped all the different gods, and only then, after he tried all of them, he understood. And I agree with you in the reading. In the reading of the Midrash comes exactly the direction that you led to, saying that he's understand that there's something completely different in the Jewish God. It's a different concept that Yitro agreed that this is the most impressive. But in a way, it goes, I would even say, against the wording in the Torah. The word in the Torah comes to God helped the Israelites, so God is amazing. He's so strong. I think Tikva wants to say.
Tikva.
Can be because Yitro saw with his eyes the wonders in Mizraim, and can be that he was convinced that he's the only one, because no one can do this about all the miracles in Mizraim.
Yeah.
And he, with the eyes all over the all.
I would say, Tikva, the part that there's only one part that you're wrong. It's the first word in the parasha is Vayishma, that he heard. So he didn't see it with his eyes, but he heard all what God did. But you can also, regarding that aspect, talk about amazing things happen to other nations.
Mm-hmm.
And if we will look around the world and decide on whoever we felt that had miracles happen for them, I will say almost anyone who survived today in the world had miracles happen to him at one point or the other. We had miracles happen to us, but we also had some of the worst things at the same time. So you can focus on the miracles, you can focus on the bad thing. If this is the argument of if the basic of our belief is because of God did to us in a specific time of the world, like it all starts, then it won't stand too much, because as soon as that it goes the other way, then you won't be able to argue that because of the miracles God did to us. And that's why the first explanation is actually very hard. And I like the fact that the Midrashim takes it to a more principle approach about the difference of the concept, and not the matter of power, who's stronger, who can do better miracles.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Tatiana, Daniel, and then Esther.
Chronologically, is this happening before we got the Ten Commandments, or is it happening after? And is there some kind of significance? If I remember it correctly, I thought it was before, and maybe there is a certain role of like that only after we got the Ten Commandments did we settle the whole God is one, we don't have any idols whatsoever kind of thing. And maybe until that point, it would have been a little, if you get where I'm going.
It's funny that you asked that, because this is one of the parashot that is a debate. Like,
Well,
this is one of the places, because Yitro is so, like, it's not connected to anything that he comes there. And it's not connected to the getting the Torah. That's why many say, this is one of the places who will say, En mukdam muchar b'Torah, that the Torah is not given chronologically. I can give many examples that are, that you can see that there's no way that it's given the story goes from one to another, and here one of the examples that the argument is that they come later and not in the right place. But you're right that the order of the Torah is that it comes just before getting the Ten Commandments, just before Ma'amad Har Sinai, and maybe that one of the reasoning and the explanation is that that to understand in which system could the Israelites learn everything, because Moshe couldn't really shout to what the Torah describes as at least 2.5 million people. Moshe was probably an impressive person. Regardless how impressive he was, I don't think he had the voice to shout and teach 2.5 million people at once all the messages. So the idea that it comes just before we get the Torah means that we have a system of studying, of delivering the message, the knowledge, and that's why it's placed before, but not necessarily meaning that this is a chronological time of the Torah's story. If you ask me about the truth, you can have no idea.
Okay, Esther.
I have a question, two questions. Why only Yitro came? Why everybody else heard too? Why only Yitro? And how did he find them? Is it by tracking? There are lots of millions of people went, or was the cloud there hovering that he could see from far away? The arm is there. So I have two questions. How did Yitro find Moshe, and why no other nation came to convert?
Micha, do you want to answer, or should I?
You take the first one. I need to think about this.
Okay, so first of all, the first one I would answer, no, there are many others who come along. We read about Erev Rav. When they go out of Egypt, we hear about the Erev Rav that went up together with them. And Erev Rav is just like the word arov, it's a mixture, it's a irbuv, it's lots of different people who came along. So the Torah actually describes many different people who came along. So that is definitely answers the first question, that Yitro is not the only one, and we have others who come together out of Egypt together with him. That's the one. Later on, we will read about others who also convert to in different periods of Jewish history. So that's part of it. So that is for the first question. The second one, Rav Michael, you wanted to try, or should I continue with that too?
I'm looking for one about with the people. Just looking for a pasuk about the previous conversation.
So the second question was, how did he find them? Well, the Torah doesn't tell us anything about these questions. It wasn't an issue. But actually the question is very good, because what you do right now is think the way Midrash thinks. The way that Midrashim were created was exactly going into gaps of something that the text doesn't talk about. The text just mentioned that he comes. He heard and he came. It wasn't an issue. It wasn't something that was difficult or something. But you come and ask, what could we create out of it? Should we focus on the Anan? What was the thing that shows here are the people? Is it how people talked around? Did everyone know because seeing this masses of people moving meant everyone could tell about the thing that are happening? Or was the spiritual thing, seeing the Anan? So Esther, I'm looking forward to read your Midrash one day when you'll come with your answer to this question, and we'll have a deep idea behind your answer and why was that the right answer. There's place for much more Midrashim and discussions.
I just want to add a pasuk that we read last week when you spoke about the amount of people that were there. That you don't think that there were 2.5 million people. I mean, we get this number because of the counting which was done after we leave Egypt. We count more than 600,000 men between 20 and 60 in order to count how many is able to go to war. And so if there are 600,000 between 20 and 60, then you get to a number of the whole people, which is around 2 million. But But in chapter 15, this was last week's parasha, we read that they camped in a place called Elim. And they camped there because they found 70 palm trees. Now,
Springs.
Exactly. So there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there beside the water. Now, if there were 2.5 million people, then 70 palm trees would make no difference, and 12 springs of water would be of no use for so many people. So the Torah itself seems to clearly say that that's not the number that we're actually dealing with. Because
there are an interpretation thing that the number of the Tamarim is not 70 trees, but 70 kinds of trees. And it was thousands of trees. There are commentaries to talk about that, which actually makes sense regarding the number. But the idea of the number is actually more principle, right? The 12 is like 12 tribes, and 70.
Right, but I just right. But if there were several thousand, well, if there were 70 different kinds of trees, yeah, I think you would have to go away from the simple reading of the text. But okay, that's.
Yeah,
that's
of course they're difficult. There's a some rule about numbers, and not only in the Bible.
Sure.
Whoever is a historian, when you read about any story, also from the Roman time, from the Roman
Sure.
and back, the thumb
Okay.
rule.
Yeah.
Remember, it's not the truth. It's
Sure.
just a thumb rule. Says
Sure.
you take one zero down. So if it says there were 100,000 soldiers, then about 10,000. Like it's that's the thumb rule about real numbers and numbers in stories. But I be careful to say something like that about the Torah, which is the Torah emet, and we can't set any question marks or on any word. Oh, we can, but that's.
Okay, we're moving along in the Midrashim, and I'm gonna see if we can get to. Okay, so we have the Midrash continues by saying 4 men said 4 things, which, had they been uttered by other men, would have been scoffed at, with the comment, "How does he know about the ways of God?" I mean, so let's see. I need to see if I need to show you the text here. How does he know about the ways of God? So we're talking about, the Midrash says that there are four men who could say something which no one else could say in the whole world. And one of them is then, of course, Moshe. So Moshe said that the rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are justice. How does he know that? How does Moshe know that God's ways are just? It was proper, however, for Moshe to make the statement, since it's written about him, he made known his ways unto Moshe. Thus, Scripture says, "Show me your ways." So this is one of the things that Moshe could say that no one else was able to say, says the Midrash. The Midrash continues and says that Shlomo said. So Solomon said that he hath made everything beautiful in its time. And if any other man had made this statement, they would have been laughed at him, saying, "Who told him what is beautiful in its time and what's not beautiful?" So Solomon, Shlomo, however, could properly make such a remark, since nothing was lacking from his table. Rav Chana, the son of Chanina, declared, even ice in the hot summer month of Tammuz and melons in the cool spring month of Nisan were not lacking from Shlomo's table. I love this. I really enjoy this Midrash because I love the examples that the Midrash gives in order to explain to us that nothing was lacking from Shlomo's table. So a melon in the spring is something that we happen to see nowadays. But of course, if you wanted to explain to someone that nothing was lacking, then telling them that they got fruit outside of season, that was of course an impossibility back then. But Shlomo apparently had it.
It showed how rich we are today.
Yeah.
Right.
So I enjoy the Midrash examples. But then we come to Yitro, which is one of the reasons why the Midrash talks about this. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods. Yeah, by the things they planned to do evil, they were destroyed against them. This may be compared to the man who loaded his donkey only to have a load fall upon him. This happened to the Egyptians. They intended to destroy the Israelites in the water, and they themselves were drowned in the water. Thus it's written, for by the thing they've planned to do evil against them. There's another one that was mentioned in the Midrash, which I think is Nebuchadnezzar. But yeah, so this is let's see if there's another one connected to it. No, so that's the whole of the Midrash in Tanhuma, and these things what I thought when I read the Midrash about the 4 people who could say something. So I thought it was a nice way of saying, if you ask the question, what does the Midrash mean? So to me, I thought about this. The idea that the Midrash might be saying is that there are, even for someone like Nebuchadnezzar, even for someone like Yitro, there are things that they might know that no one else knows. That people have different experiences and learn different things, knows different things, and everyone has something else that they might know that other people might not know. So there's something that Moshe might know that no one else knows, which it doesn't come as a huge surprise, but that the Midrash also mentions someone like Shlomo, Nebuchadnezzar, or Yitro, that was more surprising. But to me, it seems to be saying that there is something to everyone, and everyone has something unique that they might have based on their experience.
It also shows us so much about how, first of all, how careful we need to be to say something that are a truth. The Midrash here comes and say, these 4 people were the only one who were able to say such things. But you can't say something about everything, the most beautiful in the world, right? It's how can you say the most beautiful in the world? Did you see everything in the world? Like, this is what they say about Shlomo. How can you say that everything is or compared to everything, or when Moshe says, all his ways are. How can you say all his ways? Maybe there's a way you haven't seen. This is the very essence of how careful we need to be with generalizing. With generalizing about God. It's actually it's funny to say, because we are so used to say such things. God is loving, right? This is what a different religion takes a very big focus on that, right? That the God and love. But the fact that it is so easy to say things about God and generalize about God, and the Midrash comes here and say, oh, only these 4 people were allowed to say such a thing. You can't say something about how beautiful all of God's deeds are and how righteous all of God. You're not allowed to say that because you don't know. Moshe could say that because he knew, but you can't. It's a saying someone who had a very specific experience, he's able to say something, maybe. And even then, it's like, careful, you need to see why. And I think it's a great study to us, like how humble we're supposed to be with saying something so clearly, clear cut. Are you like Moses, that you're able to talk about God? Like, I think of all the first half an hour that we sat here and spoke. Do we really understand anything? Do we have any clue about God for real? Do we? I don't. Maybe Rav Michael has, but so and we consider and discuss and talk about how God is and the philosophy behind God and monotheism and such, and use all these great words. The Midrash here comes in many ways, looks at us and says, be careful with what you say. Don't think that you're able to say something that is clear cut, that is the right thing. There are only 4 people who were able to say these things because they experienced something unique that you will never experience, that you don't know. Yes, Michael.
It's a very, very short commentary
Yes.
in Europe and in the Western world we use the word theology, and the definition is the study of God. Or so therefore, I know probably also both of you, when you discuss with academics, and so I tell them we have very, very little theology in Judaism. If you go the whole Talmud, there's very little. And you can say, as I agree with Rav Michael, that the Rambam makes he makes a theology which is so far from saying God is nice or great, or it's really complicated, and he uses also the negative attributes, that no one like him, not be compared to anything, and that's the way he defined, in order not to go to this trap of saying God is nice or quiet or happy or also snil and good and so on, and therefore so that was just a little reflection about the word theology.
Oh, Michael, we can't hear you.
You didn't hear now?
No, we heard you, Rav Michael. We couldn't.
Sorry.
No, you disappeared. You look like Hannah in the temple. Your lips move, but there's no sound coming out. I think you drank too much wine.
Maybe.
Oh,
Here now?
you're back.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Yafe, Michael, the other one. Yafe mod. Okay, very nice. So we have a few more minutes. So I hope we can get through one more midrash that I enjoyed. Okay.
Ooh, that's a surprise for me too. So I look forward to it.
Okay. So in the Torah, so Moshe goes up and then he's sent down again, and this troubles the midrash. So the Lord said to Moshe, "Go down, warn the people not to break through the Lord, to the Lord, to gaze, lest many of them perish. The priests also, who come near the Lord, must stay pure, lest the Lord break out against them." But Moshe said to God, "The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, 'Set bounds about the mountain and sanctify it.' So the Lord said to him, 'Go down and come back together with Aaron, but let not the priests or the people break through to come up to the Lord, lest he break out against them.' And Moshe went down to the people and spoke to them." At that moment, God wanted to give them the Torah and to speak with them, and yet Moshe was standing, so to speak, besides God. The Holy One, blessed be He, said, "What will I do regarding Moshe?" So Rabbi Levi gave a parable concerning a king who wanted to pass legislation without consulting the lieutenant governor in order to get him out of the way. He said to him, "Go and do such and such." He replied, "It's already been done." So he said to him, "Go and fetch so and so, the senator, and come back with him." While the lieutenant governor was gone, the king did as he had wanted to do and passed the legislation. There we go, that's it. So that was the Midrash. The Midrash saying, so I went through it a bit quickly here, but it begins by noting that there's a whole spiel circus going on Har Sinai, with Moshe going up and then he goes down and makes sure that the Kohanim don't come near. And then Moshe says, "How are they supposed to come near? We just closed off the whole mountain." And goes like, "Don't make sure that they don't come up." And then he says,
Moshe needs to go up and down, and he's 80
exactly.
years old. 80 years old, go up and down the mountains. It's quite amazing.
So it certainly seems, and that's what the Midrash is picking up on, that it certainly seems that God does not want him on top of Har Sinai, there with him when he gives the Torah or the Ten Commandments or Aseret HaDibrot. Why does God? That's the question for you, which is for the last few minutes. What is it that makes God not want to Moshe nearby when he gives these 10 commandments?
Question to me or to you? You mean all the Beit Midrash?
No, first of all, will the right answer you can give after the rest of us have tried. and then you
I
can
don't
come
have
with
the right answer, but I'm looking forward to hear the other ones.
so that's at least that should make it easier for you guys to try, because Jair has already revealed that there's no right answer, so or we don't know what the right answer is, so you can all claim. So Mikael begins, and then
I think
Leora
Leora was first. Leora
Okay,
was first.
Leora.
Thank you. I think you were first.
Okay, so I'll do it very quickly. The answer is in the Torah. The people built a golden calf because Moses was up there, and then they mix between God and Moses. And I've heard about another Midrash who said that the golden calf in fact have the face of Moses. But that was my comment. Now it's Leora.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay.
I was thinking more it's because God doesn't want him up, because then people will maybe doubt Moshe that actually maybe like he wrote like his thing sneaky, let's say, but like if he's down, and so maybe other people will be able to hear God's voice and realize that Moshe is actually like a prophet. So yeah, that's it.
I see. Very
It's
good.
very interesting because it's also what you say, Leo, and in a way, also what the Midrash here is exactly the opposite than what the Torah says. No, I think you're onto something about what the Midrash says, because the Torah says explicitly that God tells to Moshe, I will talk to you, and the people will see that I'm talking to you, and then they will believe in you. Connected to also to what Michael Gritzman said about that they believed in Moshe in a way that it was not healthy, in a way that they believed in him like they believed in God, and not as a person, that he was part of them. So that was problematic. And I think in a way, both of you touched this. It's an issue about how is the relation of the people, Moshe and God, regarding here. But I think that the Midrash focus is not so much in as far as I can see it. It's actually less focused on how they perceive Moshe, but about God, who insists on giving something that his right hand maybe won't want him to. Just like the example. The example was as a king who wants to legislate and then make sure that the lieutenant disappears, that those who disagree with him won't be and next to him when he does it. And we can see here that from some reason that is what we need to discuss. Why would Moshe stop God from giving the Torah or the Ten Commandments? It depends what is it that we got there. But what is it that God forces Moshe? Like and he's like, now that's the reality. You have to face with it. The Torah is given. You can't undo it because it's already given. I did it while you were away. I took you aside in order to give something directly to the people. And maybe that is the aspect that comes. There's something about the content that is different and should be from a place that all of the people are involved and no one had any influence on the content. No one did a fine-tuning. No one did rinse and did like, but this won't be able to come through. This is too much. This is maybe too little. Like there's no, it's a direct given from God without any, maybe a bit like Lior, what you said, that they won't believe. So not focus on the believing, but actually to underline that Moshe, the opposite in what we call the Torah, Torah Moshe, and this underlines, no, it's not Torah Moshe. Moshe was a tool to give it forward to us, but it wasn't his Torah. It's God's Torah, not Moshe's Torah. I remember once one of my rabbis one of the rabbis that I appreciated a lot, Rav Mordechai Breuer, he had a whole philosophy about how to read the Torah with all what they say in the academical world, that they proved that the Torah couldn't couldn't have been written by one person, because they give different evidence that the Torah had different language, like way of literal ways, and there are conflicts and such. And he came, read everything they said, and said, they're right. They just proved that the Torah wasn't written by one person. That's nothing that is bad, that goes against my belief, because I believe the Torah is from God. One person couldn't write it, but God could. God can write something that contradicts itself. There isn't something that is only God-wide and not something a human can. And that's the way he took it from a different angle completely. But this is exactly what I think the Midrash here underlines, also how much Moshe is taken aside. And that's why I say that it actually goes against the text. Because the text talked about how now they will believe in you, Moshe, too. And the Midrash comes and says, no. We want to take Moshe out of the picture and only get the Torah directly from God.
That was also your point, Mikael. It was Mikael Gates, but it was a bit too deep to do it so quickly, Mikael. But your idea was also, you also said that the idea is that Moshe doesn't get this such a lofty and great place, and the image that you gave us, Mikael, was that there's a midrash about the golden calf having the face of Moshe, which is a great way to illustrate that the danger when you have a leader with such a stature like Moshe, the danger is that people take it the wrong way. Which I think maybe be connected when I think about it now to what comes right at the end of the parasha. With the Ten Commandments, we have a prohibition of creating images of God, right? We have a prohibition of creating a statue of God, which we often think of is a prohibition of because we don't want to make anything that looks like God. The problem is that no one's seen God, so why would we be worried about that? There's no reason to be worried about that, right? But what we are worried about is that you make an image or a picture of a statue of something that would actually be problematic. And I think maybe you're hinting at something that would be very problematic. So when you start making pictures and statues of something which you think is amazing, it all goes wrong. So maybe that's where really the prohibition of creating this image or stature of God is, that you're going to replace God with something else, and you're going to start conflating God with something else.
And maybe we can continue to that, Rav Michael, and say that they tell us Elohim Masecha lo ta'aseh lah, right? That you can't put a mask on God and creating an image of God, which is so nice because it doesn't talk about don't make images of other gods, which I know will look. No, don't try to make an image of the God you believe in. Like you will think that you're trying to reach God and that you got something. But that second that you think that you got something and you have a clear image of what God is, you will start believing the God you created and not God itself. Like, even though you try to reach God, you will reach what you think God is and not God. And that's a great danger of creating this, because then you freeze an image of God that is your perception and not what God is. And that is the greatest danger we have, that we put God into a specific mask and image. And that is what the dangers that we can do to God, which we need to be careful all the time by saying the one thing or the other. We can't decide what God is. God doesn't work for us. We can't decide for God what God is, and that is something we need to reflect on, because that is actually, when we want God, we want to know what God is, and then understanding that this is also a problem in our theology, because then we start to pray to the God we want God to be and not to what God is. And what God really is, that's too difficult to answer. We'll let the Christian debate about it in their theology courses. We'll focus on Talmud.
Yeah, fair. Very good, guys. Thank you very much for helping me with
best,
this
and
midrashim.
let's pray for all the Chatufim to come out, and for good times for Israel and for us and for all people.
Amen. Take care, everyone. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat